Hello, this is Manesh Patel from Ichimoku Today is April 24, 2013. This is our weekly Ichimoku analysis for the futures market, where we're going to cover everything from crude oil, natural gas, heating oil, commodity futures, lumber, cotton, bonds, everything else out there. Okay? This is our normal disclaimer to state this is for education use only. We're not soliciting you to buy or sell any particular instrument at all. If you decide you do so, you're doing that at your own risk. Today's charts, you're basically going to be using TradeStation to look at the Ichimoku charts for futures. Here are our contact details here. You can email me here at info@eiicapital.com, or you can go to our website here at ichimokutrade.com, access any of our free videos, heat map, email alerts, multiple time frame email alerts, and so forth, or you could call any of our office locations if you have any questions. Okay, so let's go straight to TradeStation and let's start looking at futures. So let's go through and let's start as we normally do. Remember, the left-hand side is basically the daily time frame. Right-hand side is basically the weekly time frame. So the very first future we're going to go through here is soybean oil. If you look at soybean oil, it was starting a bearish trend here, kind of bottomed out here. The major support at 48.40 is basically the major support level right now. So it's kind of sitting there right now, just bouncing off there. It's sitting there for a long time to a point. It's making momentum weak, and now basically what's happened is that this thing could probably sit there and stop going bearish. If it sits there and breaks the minor resistance level at 49.52, and then the major resistance level roughly around 50.97, this thing can reverse and head all the way back to 54, pretty much enter maybe a consolidation pattern. So it's not great that it hasn't broken down. Really should have broken down anywhere within here. And the more it doesn't, the more it's giving the bulls a chance to sit there and come back and to kind of drive this thing up north. Okay, so keep an eye on that one now. Corn, basically, if you look here, basically got to our support level at 628.48, bounce off there, and kind of just hanging around right now. The resistance level on this guy right here, if you look at it here, is going to be about 685.48. And you can see that even on the daily chart, it looks like it's still trying to start a bearish trend, but really needs to break below this minor support level here, 624, and then break the major one at 628 to sit there and start a trend on both the daily and the weekly. But the weekly is telling us this thing still needs a pullback or needs to consolidate a little for things to equalize before it's going to tank. So just be very careful if you're going to short this right now. If you do, just make sure you stick to pullback levels or stick to lower time frames to do so. Cocoa futures here, you could see it looks like it's trying to start a trend on the daily time frame, but here on the weekly you see that it's just basically pulling back. It still hasn't really broken this resistance level of 23.12 with vengeance yet, so if it does break that level, then the next level it's going to get to is pretty much here, which is the bottom of the cloud at 23.78. So this thing really, if it holds 23.78 and then bounces off there and comes down, then it can sit there and start a trend to the downside. But right now there's a lot of conflict between the daily and weekly in regards to this. Okay, if this is going to start a bullish trend, this thing will probably need to pull back. If it could pull back to about 22.05, believe it or not, that'll be actually an ideal level for it to pull back and then sit there and start going up higher, where it's going to again break the resistance level it just did at 23.12 and keep on going higher. Crude oil, if you look at crude oil here, a lot of people think that this is starting a bearish trend. It really didn't at all. If you notice here, this is kind of a shakeout bar for what we call a shakeout bar here, where it kind of went all the way down. Got a lot of people that were sitting there doing breakout trades off that pivot low, got them involved in the trade short, and then basically drove it up here, where basically those people had to do short covering now. So the key now is going to be what's going to happen at the different resistance levels. So the first resistance level you're going to have, which is a minor one, which is 91.85. It's not really minor, but it's going to be actually major, believe it or not. So 91.85. If this thing is going to tank, it's got to sit there and hold 91.85. If it's not, it's going to break that level, get to about 92.85, and at that point, it's going to basically probably try to go back at the top of this consolidation pattern. But this little spike down here, this little shakeout bar, can cause this thing to sit there and pretty much consolidate now and kind of break this bearish potential trend it had. Okay. Next is basically cotton. If you look at cotton here, it came out of the cloud bearish, still has not started a trend here. You can see here it had a potential to sit there and break out. However, momentum was not on its side at all. It sat there, and this week right now, if you look at it, it's broken the support, but we kind of need to see exactly where the week's going to end up at. But it's broken 84.37 for right now. But if it, we have to see exactly where we close here by the end of this week. If it sits there and closes below the 84.37, then we got a high probability getting down to 80, and pretty much this thing may sit there and resume its bearish trend here, but we're really not going to know until it at least breaks 80 and gets below the cloud, below 75. If it gets below 75, then this thing's going to start a trend on both the daily and the weekly, but we really don't think that's going to happen, at least not till the middle or towards the end of May, if it's going to happen at all. Dollar index here, you can see really not doing anything except ranging right now between 83.42 and 81.96. So there's nothing really discussing that one at all. Feeder cattle, if you look at feeder cattle here, was starting a downward trend here. You could see from the daily, it's consolidating now because price is in the cloud. But if you look in the weekly, this thing is still bearish trending, believe it or not. And it still will remain bearish trending until it sits there and breaks the resistance level at 156.138. Okay, so just take that in consideration. This is a pullback that's occurring right now, nothing more. 5-year Treasury notes, if you look here, we look bullish on basically the daily time frame. Bearish, we're holding the minor support level at 124.09. As long as we hold that, this thing has the potential to break out to the top side and continue this big long bullish trend that's basically it's been engaged in for a while now. So gotta wait and see what happens, but the support is holding right now, which is a good sign for this the 2-year Treasury notes. Heating oil. Heating oil is basically, if you look here on the daily time frame, here it's basically starting a trend to the downside, and you can look here on the weekly time frame. It's just basically in one big consolidation pattern. Nothing really exciting going on here at all for this this future, but this is basically in one big consolidation pattern. You can see that this is being the top of the range, this is being the bottom right down here, and it actually may sit there and form a tighter consolidation pattern now, which will pretty much be here, right, roughly about here. So it could sit there and form that to be a new consolidation pattern right now. So only time will tell, but basically it does need to pull back up to a resistance level. The next resistance level will be 2.9520, but there's nothing really going on here. If anything, I'll be looking for a bullish trade here on day trading time frames to sit there and look for an opportunity there. If you want to play a scenario to play this down to more, then basically a pullback level, a minor resistance pullback level will be 2.9150. If it doesn't hold that level, definitely it's going to get to 0.29520, pretty much start ranging in the middle of the consolidation pattern. Coffee here really doing nothing. It's still bearish on basically the weekly time frame and still holding its ground. Resistance level on this one's going to be 141.68. Support on this one's still going to be about 137.05. Nothing really going on there. Live cattle here, still bearish trending on basically the weekly time frame. It's held a support at basically 120. The resistance on this guy is going to be about 121.96. Okay. Lean hogs here, as you could see, it's starting a trend here on the daily time frame, kind of consolidating here now at the bottom, and you could kind of see that here. It's kind of ranging here between 88 and about 100 right now. It's pretty much a consolidation pattern for this guy here on the weekly time frame. Next resistance, we're kind of at a minor resistance now. The next major resistance is going to be basically 95.02, and support, as we mentioned, is going to be basically about 89 on this one. Natural gas, if you look here, natural gas had a big trending movement on the daily time frame. However, we feel like it's going to basically need a pullback now. It's at a minor support level, which is 4.215. Sorry, the minor support level is going to be 4.145, and then if it sits there and breaks that, then I think it's going to come down to roughly about here. which would be the major resistance level here, sorry, support level, which is 3.862. But I definitely think natural gas needs a pullback now, and probably will pull back for a little while. Ideally, we want it to pull back to about 3.86 before you can start looking at even bullish opportunities again for natural gas. Okay, I know a lot of people are bullish, but charts are kind of telling you that this bullish momentum may be a little dry right now. As far as orange juice is concerned, really nothing going on. This thing's just consolidating from about 354 to about 410. Nothing exciting at all going on there. Platinum, you could see here it's trending a trend, starting a trend on the daily time frame, and basically on the weekly time frame you could see it's basically ranging between here, that's the middle of the consolidation pattern, and the top of the consolidation pattern is basically going to be here. So we basically have got to the bottom of the consolidation pattern. If we break the 1387, watch out, because this can start a trend on the weekly, and then you're going to have a multiple time frame sell that's basically occurring between the daily and weekly moving forward. If we've gone through that, let's go for gasoline. Gasoline here is starting a trend of the daily time frame, and you can see it's basically pulling back right now on the weekly. Support level is basically going to be 2.6383. At that point, we think it's going to hold there and then start to go higher again to back to about 2.9830. So keep an eye on that right now. But we're definitely waiting for it to get to that support level before we start looking at purchasing this thing. Rice, on the other hand, you could see here the daily looks very, very ugly. The weekly, it's a little ugly, but it's still actually the natural trend is still bearish, going downwards. If you look at this, its resistance is basically 15.578, and support on this guy is basically going to be this pivot low now, which is roughly about 14.584. Soybeans, as you can see, we marked this up last time. This thing's just consolidating between 1320 and 1447. This is still naturally bullish, believe it or not. So look for a break on 1447. Once it does, then it has a possibility of coming back to retest that high, which will be about 1728. Okay. Next one here is basically sugar. You can see sugar is still bearish here on the weekly time frame. A little ugly on the daily, but it is bearish, and you can see it's at a support level right now on the daily time frame, which it has to sit there and break. Resistance level on this one's going to be 18.616. So sugar is still going down and will continue to go down as long as it holds that resistance level 18.16. Gold, which has been an exciting one for the last couple of weeks, you can see is basically starting a trend on the daily time frame, and you could see here on the weekly time frame. And let's enlarge this because a lot of people could see this. You could see this is finally a pullback that's actually being engaged for gold, and it's long overdue. And you could see it kind of sat there and came all the way down to here, which is established a support level right now. And then the resistance level on this guy is going to be about 1538. So these are the two key levels now for gold going forward, that we're looking at the mini gold futures right now. So 1310 and 1538 is going to be its new range until it basically breaks out of those two levels. Okay, soybean meal. If you look at soybean meal, nothing really going on at all, consolidating between 391 and 422. This is 2-year Treasury notes. You could see here, really hasn't broken the resistance. It's ranging, and you can see it's basically ranging between 110,06 and 110,09. So nothing exciting at all. 10-year Treasury notes. It's broken the resistance here and it's kind of holding it right now. So the support on this one's going to be 132,27. Resistance, of course, is going to be the high up here, which is 133,16 roughly. 30-year Treasury notes. Here it's holding its resistance level 149,832. Support is basically 145,432. Nothing exciting going on there. Wheat, on the other hand, right here is basically retesting its support again at 690 and 5/8. Resistance on this one's going to be 744 1/8. And silver, if you look here, silver is dropping, basically starting a trend on both the daily and weekly. And if you look here, this is basically slowly retracing this whole move that this thing had undergone back here in 2010, and you could see it's breaking through all that stuff now. So it only has a couple more points to go before it gets to about 20.98, which is basically the consolidation pattern breakout here. So that's going to be basically a major support here. Resistance on this one is going to be about 2607. So this thing is retracing everything that's basically has moved up on. So hopefully a lot of people are not still bullish on silver. Um, Last one we have is copper. Copper, as you can see, is broken the support here at 3.32. Just yet to get to another major support level here. And it's probably clear if we sit there and show this lines out here. Zoom out, and you can see it pretty much came down here to the 3.065 level. And it's got to break that. If it breaks that, this thing will start a trend and does have the possibility of getting down to about 2.7, believe it or not. So keep an eye on this one. So in summary, if you look at a lot of these pairs, these future products, there's not really much going on right now. No real big new trend that has started to occur at all in the last 2 weeks. You continue to have sugar going down and coffee and stuff like that, and then the markets are pretty much continues to go up as far as like the U.S. stock market and stuff like that. But really, nothing exciting is going on as far as anything out there. Gold dropped last week to a major support level, which it's getting to now. And silver is getting to another level too. So, if you're looking for new trades, there's not much out there right now. If you're in existing trades, you're pretty much just managing them and managing the risk right now for them. If you have any more questions, let us know. Here are our contact details here. I will see you guys in 2 weeks.